Most of us would do more for our babies than we have ever been willing to do for anyone, even ourselves, said Polly Barron Burns. Today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of designer babies. I have searched high and I have searched low for the answers, and yet I have come up short. I have my opinions, and I'm sure that you have yours just by hearing the name designer baby. However, I am not here to preach at you and tell you what side I have, and whether it be pro or whether it be con. I am here to give you a well-rounded argument and let you be the judge in deciding whether or not you think designer babies are a good thing or a bad thing. The diversity you see when you walk down the street every day is quite amazing. What would happen, however, if everyone got to choose what their child looked like, down to the last thing? Whether it be what color skin they have, or what color hair they have, or even eyes. Science is becoming more and more advanced, and scientists have created ways to check for diseases, both genetically and inherited. They have also found a way to create a child right down to what the parents want. If you were a parent, would you decide to have your child genetically tested or even engineered? Designer babies are making their way into this world, which causes great debate for some. On one side of the argument, designer babies are great because they can prevent the risk of some genetic diseases. Yet on the other hand, they aren't 100% foolproof and anything could go wrong with them. I'm not hired to preach at you, to tell you what side is the best side. I am here to tell you, rather, to give you all the information and let you decide for yourselves if you are for or against designer babies. A lot of people think that because the name given to this procedure, designer babies, it is going to be a rare thing and may not be the best thing, but that is false. There are many benefits to designer babies, or even having your child genetically tested for diseases, which they might develop, or it could be passed down hereditarily from generation to generation. By testing or even genetically modifying a child, there are very few risks for chance of disease. Some of the pros for testing or genetically modifying a child are: a child could be engineered to cure another child of a disease. This goes without saying that it could be very beneficial to everyone. Imagine if you had a child who was in need of something and the only way to give it to them would be to genetically engineer another child to fix the problem, with a 100% chance that the genetically engineered child would not have the same disease. Wouldn't you want to do that? Along with curing the child of the disease, you could also bring another life into this world that isn't going to have to worry about that inherited disease. If the already born child is with a life-threatening disease, the designer child would have no chance of ever getting it, which I think is a pretty cool thing. And testing can even be encouraged in a few situations. When someone in the family knows that they have a genetic disease, that it could be passed on, it could be prevented by testing that fetus and making sure it does not carry the same gene. If you were having a child and there was a chance that they wouldn't come into this world as healthy as they could be, wouldn't you want to try to do something about it? Testing is encouraged to make sure the mother is carrying a healthy child and that nothing is wrong with the development, growth, or diseases. To genetically modify your child or testing your unborn child is an option. It is not a requirement. Just so everyone knows, you can choose not to have a genetically engineered child. People that are choosing to have a genetically engineered child either have a hard time getting pregnant or there is a disease in their family that they want to be sure that is not going to be passed down to their child. In extreme parenting, there are people who just want a designer baby because they want to control how their baby looks, right down to how athletic they are, intelligent they are, and how they're going to become. However, most parents decide to have a genetically engineered child if they have been trying for a very long time to get pregnant and it is their only option left. There are some parents out there that are willing to have a genetic testing on their child, and if there is something wrong with them, such as a genetically passed disorder, or if they know that their child will have autism, they will have the pregnancy terminated so that they can have a healthy child. No one is telling you to have a genetically engineered child or even to have the child genetically tested. That is something only the parents can decide for the child. In short, many people think that having a designer baby is the way to go. They do not want to have a sick child, and even if they can be prevented, why not? The parents think that they are putting their child before themselves and are making sure that their child is set up for success. If they had to watch one child suffer and didn't want to watch the rest of their children suffer, then why not have a genetically engineered child? It seems like the way to go. Because pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, or formerly known as designer babies, are chosen and is not a requirement, people had the option of not getting it done and have a good reason behind their decision. Because of the technology isn't 100% safe as of now, many things could go wrong with that genetically engineered child. Some cons to genetically modified children could be many individuals and some organizations, such as churches and Right to Life, oppose the idea of a genetically engineered or modified children. They feel as if it is up to God whether they are going to have a healthy, full-functioning child, or if they are going to have a child that is going to have a disease or autism. With genetically engineered children, doctors will also create more than one embryo on a petri dish. From there, they will pick the best embryo suited to the family and terminate the rest. You can see how this might upset some people, because according to the Pro-Life Action League, a baby is alive at the moment of conception. Many people feel that picking and choosing a child from a petri dish is not morally or ethically right. Some people believe that because it is about the developing embryo who is in the womb, and they are not able to make the decision whether or not they want to be a designer baby or not, it is not right because the baby does not have that choice, and it is the baby's right to know whether or not they are being genetically modified or not. The process for designer babies is very costly. Many people fear that only a select few couples will be able to actually undergo the process if they wanted to. There are fears because of the costliness. It would create more of a social class, and instead of there being just the poor, middle, and upper classes, there would be designer baby and non-designer baby classes. And because the parents get to choose whether or not their child has blue or brown eyes, they would also want to be able to choose whether or not the child was athletic, smart, musical, and the list goes on. The designer baby would have the upper hand on everything they did because they would be more intelligent, more athletic than the non-designer child. And if the process isn't done correctly, the embryo could be terminated. The process that is undergone for a designer baby is such a complex one that even one wrong move made could terminate everything, and the child would be lost. Designer children is still in the first stages, and the first stages come with a lot of trial and error, which has people asking if it's even worth it, because they don't want to spend millions on a process that could potentially fail them and could leave them out of their money and without a child. In short, there are many things that could go wrong with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, and it should be not looked at carelessly. The process is still new, and even though we have developing knowledge, such as the Human Genome Project, it should not be taken lightly. There are some very thoughtful insights to cons on why designer babies should not be created. The people who think funding for this should not take place are not just thinking about the parents, they are thinking about the child who cannot consent. They have very insightful thoughts and feelings that should be taken into consideration, just as the people who think pre-implantation genetic diagnosis do as well. Both opposing sides have very good arguments as to why or why not a designer baby should become a thing of the present and the future. The fact that you could save a life by creating a life is just as powerful as the fact that the process could be terminated by one wrong move. There are many great facts to both the pros and cons of arguments. Now I want to ask you, what do you think? Do you feel that it is morally and ethically right? Or do you think it is playing God and should be left alone? I have given you a great basis for your facts and knowledge. Now it is your turn to decide for yourselves. Of course, people are getting used to selecting traits like the eye color on their children, and it is only a matter of time before they come around and doing the same thing for the flesh and blood of their babies.